Fred and Rosemary West. You know
the serial
in the
killers,
70s. What did they do? They took videos of the children, and they sent the videos to the parents. They sent the videos. Do you remember this?
I didn't know they did that though. I don't
They
know.
sent the videos of the children to the parents. So the parents are like, these kids are alive. Job loss, bereavement, and divorce are the three biggest things that affect men.
Okay, as a whole, not just divorced men, but just men as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
in life as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. And many times they go together. So I know men who have gone through divorce, then a job loss, or job loss then divorce. Divorce because of the job loss, and then they go for bereavement of their mother's got cancer or something like that.
Okay, men, you are alone, really. In your pain, you are alone.
Yeah.
You can't talk about it. You can't go nowhere. Men can't, again, express emotions. And look, I sort of, to a certain degree, can understand that. Then you've got some of this red pill stuff about if a man's crying, he's seen as a little bitch or a simp. There's so many different angles to. Then obviously, along with the masculine stuff, there's this element of man not supposed. He's supposed to control his emotions, regulate his emotions, and look, I can understand that to a certain degree. Separate your emotions from your action. There are so many things that, in the end, we are lone wolves. Yeah. And welcome back to another episode of Disqualified Dads in the Studio. Now, we have a very special guest. Again, this is like round 4 or 5. I've lost count, Dr. Asif.
It's like Rocky.
Yeah, listen, mate, we're going to have to make another series, Creed, after this one. But yeah, so Dr. Asif is back, and we're going to be discussing many, many issues. Dr. Asif, welcome back to Disqualified Dads.
Pleasure, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And each time it's been a level up, not just in terms of the backdrop, but it's been a level up in terms of our conversations. We've got deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yes.
And I've seen your journey from the beginning. I've seen your growth, and it's only right that your channel grows to what it is now. And 2024 is going to be massive for you, and sure. I'm excited for you, and I'm very grateful to be a small part of that journey.
Oh, Dr. Asif, listen, thank you for all your input. And like you said, every time we've had a conversation, we're going deeper and deeper, and we're taking more and more layers off the problem. Now, I just wanted to touch on something. Look, obviously it's Christmas holidays, and culturally, I think everyone who lives in England or any Western country is a time you spend with your family. Yeah, it doesn't matter what religion your background is. A universal bank holiday.
Yeah.
Everyone is off. You watch movies with the kids. You have a family meal. It is time with family. Ultimately, for all cultures and communities. Now, there's going to be a lot of fathers, young and old and middle aged. Various ages. Fathers who will not be spending, say, their first set of holidays, Christmas, with their kids. Some, like I say, years in, they might not be seeing their children. But what I've noticed is those fathers who are early on in their journey, the first 6, 8 months to a year, they're going through a lot of pain and trauma. The thought of ending it crosses their mind daily, hourly. I speak to fathers 1 minute, they're okay in the morning. By lunchtime, they want to end it again.
Exactly.
I talk them down again. We go back and forth. Yeah. They're hyped up. It is a very difficult journey. Every minute and second is painful. Now, obviously, look, you coach a lot of men. You teach masculinity. You deal with a lot of men and their trauma. I think if in the next hour we could go through like a coaching session, as to say, if you were either, say, coaching me or coaching a father, can you lay out the mechanics? I'm talking like go into detail, lay out the mechanics of how to survive, what to do when your mind plays games with you. How do you coach fathers, or generally those going through trauma or pain in general, who think life is no longer worth living, they're no longer with their kids?
Yeah.
How would you start? So I've come to you as a father. This trauma's just hit me. I had a cushy life. I'm now homeless, jobless. I don't see my kids. I've got allegations placed against me. The world is caving in on me. How would you best advise me? And let's get that information out there to help fathers get through this holiday season, get through this Christmas, and get them on the journey to recovery again.
Yeah, so first and foremost, thank you for having me back. I think this is a great session. We can actually go deep into what I normally do on my first coaching session with clients, and usually have 3 to 5 sessions, preferably kind of eight. Eight's a good number. I've had
Okay.
clients that I've done 12 with before, kind of over a 3 month period, because coaching, mindset coaching in men who have gone through bereavement or divorce, both of them are the job loss, bereavement, and divorce are the three biggest things that affect men.
Okay, as a whole, not
Yeah.
just divorced men, but just men as a whole
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
in life as a whole.
yeah, exactly. And many times they go together. So I know men who have gone through divorce, then a job loss, or job loss, then divorce, divorce because of the job loss, and then they go for bereavement of their mother's got cancer or something like that.
Okay.
So I know men who have gone through all three of them within the space of 3 months, and it comes bang, 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 back to back. But yeah, in terms of if you look at a trauma scale, you've got a level of trauma, haven't you?
Uh-huh.
So the most traumatic thing you can ever go through in life is death, right? Death of a loved one,
Yes.
parent, sibling, etc. God forbid a death of a child. Like that's unconceivable. It's inconceivable.
Yeah, it's unconceivable. Yes.
Like that pain is on a different level, right? But if you like, I remember at medical school we had a chart of the 10 most aggravating events in a person's life. So the 10 most traumatic things in a person's life. Number one was death. Number 2 was divorce. Number 3 was actually a house move.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yes.
traumatic, right?
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
And sometimes all three of them happen at the same time, right? Because in many cases you go through divorce at the same time you go through a house move.
Yes.
Because
Or you become homeless.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yes.
you go through this, the two things at once, right? So let's strip it back. So when I go through coaching, and it's a lot of my clients are men who have either gone through separation recently or through divorce. I always say, what happened on the day you found out? There's always a day. There's always a time in a day, right? 5 p.m. I woke up and I found out that she's taking the car keys and the kids.
Right.
Or I came back from a work holiday and there was a letter on the table. She says, "I've gone to my parents now. See you later. My lawyer will be in contact with you." So I always say, take me back to the day it happened, or sometimes the day before it happened. What were you doing the night before it happened? The event, okay?
Right, okay.
They say go the night before the day of. And usually the night before is fine. Like you had a meal, you might have an argument, whatever, normal. You don't expect the next day for there to be police at your house, or you don't expect the next day for your kids to be taken away with the woman. And
Yeah, it is the okay.
unexpected.
Yeah, for someone who's say, especially if you thought you were happily married,
Yes.
you wake up one morning. If it's a long-term marriage, as in say 5 years plus, you've got kids, you've got that 9 to 5 family routine. You're living the routine life. Suddenly, it's like you've been taken out your little fish tank and thrown across the road. Like it's
Yeah.
quite a trauma. Yeah.
It is. So it hits men like a ton of bricks. So I always say, take me back to that day. What were you doing? And what? So I've got a context. Once you've got the context, I've got a picture, and then I jump right to the today. I say, because my job as a coach and as a doctor is to make sure the person I'm speaking to now is not at immediate risk to
Okay.
himself or to his family or to a society. So I say, at this time, yes, I know you're not feeling good. That's why you come to see me. You come to see me because you're not feeling good, right? And I'm here to coach you. But do you pose an imminent threat to yourself right now? We need to ascertain that, right? And then you work backwards. So I get the first day. I've got the context. I've got the scene that's been set. That's the backdrop. Then I go to the current moment. Like, how are you feeling now? And then you
Okay.
fill in the gaps between them 3, 6 months or 1 year, however long the time frame is.
Okay, so at what stage do men come to you normally? So say it happened, say, I don't know, how can I put it? So let's say, like, at what stage do they normally? If it happened in January, did someone see you in March or
Yeah.
April, or is no real pattern that someone could turn up and say, I've been going through this for 6 months or a year?
Yeah, I think the most common is 3 to 6 months.
Okay, so that's the,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So just so I can put some context around it. So 9 out of 10 times you're saying
Yeah.
a father comes to you within 3 to 6 months of it happening,
Yeah,
that breakup, the
exactly.
separation, or that trauma hitting him.
Yeah, so if you Google someone called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you can write this down. Very important for your viewers out there. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's a hyphen double barrel name, Kubler-Ross. She wrote, I believe, in the 80s or yeah, I think it's 80s. She wrote the 5 stages of grief.
Yes.
Okay, so first is DABDA. So that's the acronym DABDA. First stage is denial.
Aye.
This has not happened to me. This is a dream. Let me wake up like denial, right?
Yeah.
So that could be a few days, a few weeks even. I would say it doesn't last more than 10 days, right? You know, you just wake up, I can't believe this. I can't believe she's gone. The kids have gone. Like, this must be a bad dream. You think you're going mad. You don't eat for them days, right? You know, you probably couldn't go back to this time.
Yeah, but Dr. Asif, shocking thing is, even now, sometimes I sit and wonder, like, is this real? Like, is my kids just going to walk around the corner and give me out?
Exactly.
Mate, this 2 years on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the
I think I'll
first
have to
stage,
book,
right?
I think I need to book a session with you.
Well, you're having it one right now, yeah?
I'll tell you what, yes, I'm going to have my session live now, I think, yeah.
But I should have got security clearance because you're quite dangerous apparently.
Well, listen, as this progresses, it might reveal that I shouldn't be allowed out in public.
By the way, I've got my bag there with a few jabs. You know, have you seen the sleeping jabs? Yeah, that you.
Listen, you've got consent, just hit me with them.
We have to get the Hannibal Lecter mask. I think this is session 2, right? We did do that. So yeah, denial, D. So the reason why people don't come to me within the first day, think about it. Your wife leaves you. Yeah, it's bad, but your wife leaves you with your kids. It's doubly bad. It's like triply bad.
So it's a double barrel shock.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it's a double, triple barrel shock
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you're trying to deal with. So hence you're in that stage of no, what's happening? Like you're just trying to figure out what's going on yourself.
You think it's a bad dream. You think, this is not me. Anyone but me. We was happy yesterday. We had a nice meal yesterday. We're just about to buy another house or blah 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 blah. You had plans, right? This wasn't coming. So denial only happens when it's not coming. If you know it's coming, it's not denial. Then you're like, it's going to happen anyway, right? But when you know it's out of the blue and it's completely unprovoked, you're in denial. It's not me. It's like, I know, like, you know, so actually some women come to me, mothers where their children have been locked up, and they're like, Dr. Asif, anyone but my son. I can't believe my son was doing drugs, blah, blah, blah. Anyone but him. He's such a good kid. It's the denial that hits them. If they knew their kid is up to no good, then it wouldn't come with a shock. They would be disappointed, right? Of course, you'd be disappointed, you'd be angry. So denial, so people don't come to me in the first few weeks because they're still in denial. The second stage is anger. So DABDA. So the first is D is denial, second is anger. Once the denial settles, the dust settles, the red mist calms down, anger comes. Anger is like, firstly, it can't be real. Secondly, why me? And then anger comes. How dare she? Or how
hurt,
dare?
yeah. So the anger comes from the hurt.
Of course, yeah. It's huge. It's a huge amount of hurt. Okay,
Yeah.
so denial, which is kind of overwhelming. Think about it, if you're in denial, yeah, you're not gonna reach out to a doctor, are you? You're like, no, I'm. Let me phone my brother. Let me phone my mum. Let me phone my friend. Is it real? You know, let me pinch myself.
Yeah, you can't at the initial stages. You can't.
You can't.
I agree,
You're all over
yes.
the place. You forget to eat. You forget to sleep, right?
You can't sleep.
You can't sleep, yeah. So everything is just airy-fairy. And that's called derealization and depersonalization. We talked about this in the first episode when we talked about personality disorders.
Yes.
You know, it's like you're floating. You're just existing. You're not living, you're just existing.
Okay.
You're breathing, but the only thing that's functioning is the subconscious part of you. Just the breathing and you know, the breathing and the heartbeat, right?
Yes, and that is okay. So let me I'm gonna slowly go through it. The viewers keep complaining that I keep cutting in. I should let the guests speak,
it's
but
okay.
what they don't realize is I'm trying to cover all bases, right? Yeah. So, okay, let's just take it slowly, right? Fathers come to you. Normally it takes 3 to 6 months for a father to approach you, or not just a father, mother, anyone
Yeah.
going through trauma.
That's
right?
the most common kind of period.
That's the common
Yeah.
period. 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times
Yeah.
is about 3 months in before
Yeah.
they reach out for help, basically,
Exactly.
because they are potentially going through a denial phase. Yeah. So the first stage is denial. This is not happening to me. You know, is this real? You're just trying to find your bearings and figure out how you got here. So
Yeah.
you're too far away from the stage of reaching out to get help, as
Yeah,
in
yeah,
going
yeah.
to see a life coach or a therapist or whatnot,
Yeah, exactly.
or a doctor.
And also because, like I say, you've been married for 5 or 7 years, you're like, surely she's got some semblance of humanity to come back. She's gonna wake up and she's gonna come back. She is. So why would he reach out to a doctor?
Yes, okay, fair enough. So
You're
it's early
stupid
days.
if you reach out and the next day she's come back.
Okay, so
you-
if it's a relationship breakdown or a marriage breakdown, then obviously it would make sense for someone not to reach out to you prior to the 3 months, because there's a possibility.
exactly.
Most
Yeah,
relationships,
yeah.
you've had a break or a bad patch or
Yeah,
an
yeah,
argument
yeah.
go out of hand, so you're not really. Okay, that makes sense from a relationship
yeah.
perspective. Okay, fair
So
enough.
and then the anger comes in, and when you're angry, again, you ain't gonna reach out to a doctor or a life coach. You're like, why? You're angry. You are thinking about ways to get back at her. And I'm saying her, because it's majority of the time it is woman, but obviously this applies to female. You had the lady on recently as well.
Yeah.
And your sister Sally Young is quite vocal as well. So equally, like you said, disqualified dads is a generic word.
Yes,
Disqualified
yes,
parents.
disqualified families.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So this applies to women as well. In minority of cases, it happens to women.
yes, no, absolutely. Look,
So
women as well, yes.
this is to everyone, but obviously we're fathers, so we're speaking about fathers first. So anger, let me get back at her. Again, why would you reach out to a doctor or a life coach? You're trying to get back at her. So
Okay.
all your energy, you stop performing at work. Your work goes down. You might get fired during this time. This happens quite a lot. You might get fired. Your productivity decreases. You lose your job because you're not performing. Because all your energy is on how do I get back to her? How do I, have you heard of revenge porn and all these kind of things?
Yes.
And people do that, right?
Yes.
People actually do that.
And this ain't a specific message for anyone, yeah? Just saying.
So it happens after the first few months. The revenge porn creeps up. It's a dark reality, right?
Yeah, look, okay, so understandably, look, any relationship breakdown, one party 9 out of 10 times say didn't want it. Whoever that party is going to be angry, and they're going to eventually want to get back at the
Exactly.
other person. So it's an understandable state of being, yeah?
Yeah.
So that would be the second stage.
Yeah, second stage, yeah. So that's the second stage. Denial, anger. And again, in the first two stages, people 9 times out of 10 will not reach out to help for help.
Because they're not in a position to want to work on themselves
Yeah,
or grow,
of
so
course.
which is understandable.
Because they're emotionally not regulated.
Mm-hmm.
The first stage is numbness. You're emotionally numb. You don't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this is just not what, it's called derealization, depersonalization, which is the crux of the state of denial. The state of denial is quintessentially you are derealized and depersonalized. I know these are complex medical words, but what I mean is you don't feel like you're in your own body.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you're just floating. So it's this actually called depersonalization and derealization. So you can Google these words, by the way. These are important to know. So yeah, it's like you're floating. I don't know if you've been through a death of a close relative, but you do. I said for the first few days, you're like, wow. It's like it's a weird feeling, right? You're like, and it happens in divorce. It happens. Like, first 2 days, you're like it's a big grief. It hits you, man.
No, it is a grief. Okay, I just want to add to that at this stage that because you're talking about grief and mourning and losing a loved one, when a father loses contact with a child,
It's the same.
he's mourning every day though.
Exactly.
See, the thing with a death is, and like you said, we can't comprehend the death of a child, but once you put that child to rest, you do the janazah or whatever ritual you follow, there's an element of closure. And what has been described to me and with the study that I've done is when you've lost contact with a child that is alive, we've got no contact, you are mourning that loss and death of a child that's alive every single day. You relive it every day. And even years down the line, I speak to fathers, 7, 8 years, during the day at some point it hits them. So ultimately it is a worse tragedy because the child is alive. So they're dealing with that trauma on a daily basis to add to that heartbreak as well.
And I have spoken to fathers who have lost contact, and at the same time, they've also buried one of their children as well. I've spoken to parents who have done both.
My God.
And they said the trauma of losing contact is worse because you're missing out on their milestones.
Yes.
What is she and he saying, wearing? What words can they say now? what level are they at school, how are they achieving. These fathers usually have no idea of what the kids are doing. So not only are they missing them physically, they're missing them emotionally because they're right there. They say so close yet so far.
Yes, I know the
So
feeling.
close yet so far. Like half a mile, 1 mile, but it's so far. So that is painful. That's literally torture. That is like a very, very nasty form of torture. When some of the worst torture videos, by the way, if you read Fred and Rosemary West,
Yes, the serial
yeah, in the
killers, yeah.
70s. What did they do? They took videos of the children and they sent the videos to the parents. They sent the videos. Do you remember this? In the 70s?
I didn't know they did that though. I don't
They
know.
sent the videos of the children to the parents. So the parents are like, these kids are alive, but we don't know where they are.
Yeah, the unknown. Yeah, so sorry. It's like if your child gets kidnapped.
Yes.
You'd rather at some point. I mean, like it's all a bit grim, yeah. But if your child was kidnapped, you'd rather know that it's ended and they're not suffering,
Yeah.
rather than not knowing if they're alive and suffering. That is the sort of, I don't know if conundrum's the right word, but it gives you that closure that at least they're not suffering.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
It's the important word there, closure. As humans, we prefer certain misery over uncertain happiness. Let me say that again. We prefer certain misery over uncertain happiness. We are hardwired to get over, process, and move on from certainty. If it's certain, even no matter how painful it is, it's certain. When a kid gets taken away from you in terms of contact, it's uncertain, right?
Yeah, but
And we hate that. We're not wired for uncertainty. When a death happens, it's certain that the kid is, or whatever, the parent, that person is no longer alive. That's certain. But when it comes to loss of contact or kidnapping, etc., you're not sure how they're doing, right? You obviously pray that they're healthy, but you're not sure. So there's double-pronged pain there. The pain of longing and the pain of uncertainty. Let me get back to the point I was making about anger, okay? So anger, so denial and anger.
Mm-hmm.
Denial is emotional numbness. Anger is emotional heightenedness. You're heightened.
Yeah, emotions are heightened.
Yeah,
and yes.
Exactly. So, emotional numbness, like shocked, it's like a freeze response. Have you heard of flight, fight,
and
freeze, and fawn? This fourth one is fawn.
Right,
Fawning
okay.
is like, it's like in attachment theory. Fawning is, we can have another session about this. It's quite important actually. Like complex PTSD, behavioral traits. Fawning is like.
We will go into that in the next half, yeah?
Yeah,
Second half, we'll go into more detail. I want to try and make sure I cover all this. Okay, so look, before we carry on, so we've got denial and anger now, yeah? So what would be your advice to someone who is going through this stage now? So obviously, look, a lot of fathers, they'll click onto the channel. Let's say some father's just going through this now. He's, dialed it into you, not dialed in, what's the word? He's clicked on my channel or say your channel on YouTube now to look for some advice around family court, child contact, all of this stuff. And he's watching right now. What is your advice to that father who's going through those first two stages? Now, obviously, he doesn't know he's going through these stages. He's in denial. He's angry. He's missing his kids. He potentially wants to self-eliminate. He's having these thoughts. What is your advice to that father or mother or that person there watching right now?
My advice, and I'll look you straight in the eye and say it, you can't do this alone. You cannot do this alone, okay? You should reach out, because bereavement is a process we all go through, but do not unnecessarily protract it by not seeking help. Like, if I give you an example of changing a tire. Yeah, you could change it in the rain. If it's raining and it's a thunderstorm and you're broke down, you could probably change it, right? But call the AA, they'll change it quicker for you, you know what I mean? Like RAC, etc. You could probably change it. It'll take you 4 hours, there's no light and you got to get the jack and all that kind of stuff. But call the AA and hopefully they'll change it quicker for you. The example I'm trying to give here is reach out to friends, family, reach out to people who can help you. Going through divorce or separation even, or grief, any form of bereavement or loss, mourning, You should not be going through it alone. Humans are social animals. We are social beings. We are made in groups. We eat together. We live together. That's the way we've always been throughout centuries. It's only in the last 40 years we've become nuclear families. We used to be, throughout the last 10,000 years, extended families, 3 or 4 generations living together in one household. And they said it takes a village to raise a child. Now, we're seeing a men's mental health pandemic now because men have been isolated from their families. They're not seeking help. They are going through the grief process alone. And all the stages I'm going to describe of the grief process, from denial all the way to the last stage, acceptance. Men are doing it alone. When you do something alone, it's going to take you a hell of a long time. It's the same as getting a physique. You could get a good physique, but you go to a personal trainer. You could actually shortcut that process by, from 4 years to 6 months. It's just a shortcut because they will help you. You've got leverage there. You've got years of experience condensed into a few weeks training. It's the same as grief and bereavement. There's life coaches out there that can help you, mindset coaches, there's obviously doctors and therapists and counselors that can help you. But first and foremost, reach out to your friends and family, let them know I'm struggling. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I'm struggling. I've done that before to my friends, say, like, guys, look, I just need to go to tea or coffee with you. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. We are men, but we're not robots. We are not robots. We have emotions as well, and especially in December, January are the hardest months for men.
Yeah, it's a long
days are very short.
Lonely time.
I remember my first December without my kids, man.
Yeah,
hard.
Right, I just want to take this opportunity to say, guys, listen, if you agree, disagree, or you've got something to contribute or add, put it in the comments, please. And if you are going through this struggle, reach out to me or Dr. Asif. The email's in the description. Right, Dr. Asif, so now, look, let's carry on from there. We've covered denial, anger, and obviously those going through it, we've said reach out to someone and get support. You need help, right? Yeah. So now let's move on to the next letter, B.
B is unsurprisingly stands for bereavement.
Okay.
D-A-B-D-A. Bereavement. Bereavement is you coming to terms, not accepting, but just understanding. I would say understanding. Accepting is the last one.
Mm-hmm.
You understand, like, you know what? What's happened has happened. They will no longer come back. Bless you. They will no longer come back. And you'll naturally feel a sense of loss, and you start to adjust your life. You start to adjust your life without that person.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bereavement stage. You may get rid of their belongings and change things in your house. If you've got a double bed, you might change your single bed, etc. Like adjusting your house. That's bereavement. It's natural. If you had a picture of on the wall of them, you might remove it because it reminds you of them, right?
Okay.
So that's bereavement. It's very natural. Bereavement can last from 2 to 4 weeks. I would say usually 3 weeks. In my experience, bereavement lasts for about 3 weeks. So 2 to 4 weeks. Denial, anger, all of these I would say last a few weeks each.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks each. Denial, anger, a few weeks. Bereavement, a few weeks, and then the fourth stage. The fourth stage is depression.
Depression, right?
D-A-B-D-A. So D is depression. This can last long. This can last 3 months.
Okay.
12 weeks in my experience. This is where the person, I don't need to explain depression, right? But in the context of loss and divorce, particularly.
Relationships,
yeah. Depression is when the person loses their spark, goes a bit more quiet. And we spoke about mental health in the past, but in depression, in the context of relationships and particularly child loss, depression is, when people say you're not your normal self anymore, you're not going out anymore, you're not as lively, you've lost the spark, you've lost the libido, you've lost the energy, your appetite, you're sleeping a lot more, you don't see much daylight.
I was going to say, I was feeling like that, then I got divorced.
Well, that's it, right?
I'm joking.
So,
my bad.
So that's depression, right? And it's not just normal depression. When it comes to loss, depression of loss is a depression with a cause. A lot of depression, essentially can be seasonal. We got something called SADs, particularly this time of the year, seasonal affective disorder, whereby people's vitamin D depletes.
Yes.
And you feel the signs of low mood because of low vitamin D levels, which low vitamin D reduces your testosterone by 33% as well. We mentioned testosterone before.
Yes.
Okay. That's one thing. But the depression that I'm talking about in the 5 stages of grief is very different because it's a depression which takes much longer. And it's a depression which is necessary.
Okay, I just want to, before we carry on, let me decipher it a bit more. So, look, in the context of the depression alone, the bereavement, the bereavement and the loss in the context of the relationship breakdown with your partner, your wife, girlfriend, whatever it is, yeah? And then the associated depression in regards to the relationship with your girlfriend, wife, husband, partner, whatever. But then you've got to say you've got a double barrel bereavement and depression. So if you've got, say, 2 or 3 children, that's 2 or 3 additional bereavements and depression on top of the original depression of the relationship breakdown. So we need to, I'm just trying to make sure we cover all angles, yeah?
Yeah.
And it's a possibility that if it's a family breakdown, then it's a combination of a multitude of depressions and bereavements that you're dealing with, which then magnifies the pain and depression.
Yeah, exactly. It all snowballs, and that's why it can become overwhelming. And this is why the message initially at the beginning was, do not do this alone. In fact, you cannot do it alone. You cannot do this alone. You know, like even the strongest men out there, they've had someone with them. They've had either their brother, their cousin, their family members. You cannot do this alone. Men are not supposed to be lone wolves. Lone wolves. We know what happens with lone wolves. They end up doing mass shootings in America, whatever. Like, you know, men are not supposed to be alone. You know, we are supposed to be as packs. We are supposed to be in groups. We are inherently social beings. So by trying to fight this alone because you're a strong man, it's very, you know, self-sabotaging. You cannot do this alone. It's like trying to lift a 3-ton weight by yourself. No matter how many times you say you can do it, it's physically impossible to do this. And I've seen men try to do this alone, and they failed, and they end up coming to me after 6 months or 1 year, whereas in fact they should have come right at the beginning, after 3 to 6 months, right? Because that's when things start settling down, and that's when you go into the acceptance phase. Acceptance phase follows depression. You go into acceptance. That's the last phase of the grief cycle.
Okay, before you go to acceptance, let me just put a couple of things out there. Look, for you fathers that are going through it, like Dr. Asif said, you can't do this alone. You don't have to be alone. There are fathers groups out there. You've got the Muslim Father Support Forum. They've got some good brothers on there, and it's other fathers going through the same situation. You can bounce off each other. There are a multitude of other groups that I know. Families Need Fathers.
Split the difference.
Split the difference. More deal with CMS and Sister Sally. So they're not a fathers group as such, though. But there are a few various other groups. What's his name? Stuart Blake's group. I'll find out their name. I'll put all of those links and names of their groups in the description. So reach out to me, put it in the comments, email me, and I'll try and connect you if required. Now, Dr. Asif, I just want to touch on what you just said again now, yeah? Before you go on to what was the final one? Acceptance. Right, before we move on to acceptance, I just want to cover this bit about being alone and the lone wolf. The reality is, Dr. Asif, in the society we live in, the situation that I found myself in, I'm sure you found yourself in that situation, maybe not you, I'm not sure, but a lot of fathers I speak to, because of the way society and life is, unless you're like a serious high flyer or man of net worth, if you're just a normal average Abdullah, average Joe, normal family guy, because of the way, especially the South Asian community as well, amongst other communities, men, you are alone, really. In your pain, you are alone.
Yeah.
You can't talk about it. You can't go nowhere. Men can't, again, express emotions. And look, I sort of, to a certain degree, can understand that. Then you've got some of this red pill stuff about if a man's crying, he's seen as a little bitch or a simp. You know, there's so many different angles to. Then obviously, along with the masculine stuff, there's this element of a man not supposed, you know, he's supposed to control his emotions, regulate his emotions, and look, I can understand that to a certain degree. You know, separate your emotions from your action. There are so many things that, in the end, we are lone wolves. Ultimately, there is no packs. We are lone wolves. And even in a pack, depends on the friends you have and the environment you're in and the circle you're in. You know, that's showing weakness to some degree as well. So we are lone wolves, so that is a bigger societal issue.
Yeah, I think if you look at any civilization and the way the civilization ended was when the prevailing narrative was divide and conquer. So men, yes, as units, we are individually accounted, but we've always been stronger in groups. Always been stronger in groups. And, you know, Red Pill says, you know, it's got the benefit of telling men not to play computer games, to get in shape, get your money up, level up in all aspects. You know, read, travel, invest, become a stoic man, right?
Great
So,
advice.
great advice.
Absolutely.
When it comes to individualism, there's certain things you just can't do alone. Like you cannot push a car alone. Let's say a car's broken down. You cannot do it alone. There's certain things physically you can't do alone, right? It's the same as raising a child. You cannot raise a child alone. A child needs two parents. But society is pushing individualism. Society is saying women can raise children alone. Men can go through this alone. And this is why we're getting a real uptick now in men's mental health, because men aren't supposed to go through this alone, because support network's not there. Before, you'd have your father, your brother, etc. But because masculinity has been eroded in such a pernicious way, men have been told to do this alone, etc. And you know, the fathers groups you mentioned, they should be mainstream knowledge, but they're not. Because not many people know about them. So men have been kind of forced to do these things alone. And what's happening is self-deletion rates are just going through the window. Because we're supposed to do it alone, but we actually not. Throughout human history, men have always gone to the pub or gone to the masjid or gone to the football, whatever. We've shared things in our own environments in a positive way. And I think COVID 2020, when these things closed, barber shops and gyms and pubs and a lot of communal places closed, men's mental health took a turn for the worse, because we did used to discuss these things, and you know, men are solution driven, and by talking about our problems, our grievances, our grief, bereavement, depression, all that kind of stuff, we'd actually get through the 5 stages of grief much quicker. But now it's taken an eternity because we don't have the outlet anymore. Men are literally working, coming back, working, coming back. There's no outlet. Only outlet men have now is the radio in their car. That's the only time they actually hear another voice.
Okay. All right. Look, what I'd say to that is this, Dr. Asif, yeah, because this then leads on to other things. So I'm going to try and cap what I think about that, yeah. I think masculinity is being eroded by design, as we now know.
Yes.
Lone wolves, divided individualism, individualism, again, is by design, because look at the state of the fathers movement, completely fractured and broken, nowhere near the opposition. We are nowhere
very
near.
organized, aren't they?
Exactly, but why? That just highlights again the situation with men. When men go through this, there is that element of it's very difficult, especially if you're from, I think, ethnic communities, to show weakness or be that vulnerable is very difficult in front of anyone. You know, life is, unfortunately, in some families full of politics, like even around your own, it's very difficult to come out with this. Even amongst our elders, there's a serious lack of emotional intellect.
Yes.
It's just not there. It's just not there. Sometimes your own make you feel worse. They add to all of these traumas even more. That's the problem.
Little digs.
If you're on the edge, sometimes your own push you over, like that one little push they give you, because of the lack of emotional intellect. Hence, men are in a very bad place, I would say. So yes, okay, let's move on to the next stage of acceptance then.
Acceptance is the most vital stage. And the quicker you can get to that stage, and this is why coaching is so important. Coaching essentially gets men from B or D into A.
Okay, so that's the three. So at the acceptance stage, they're sitting in front of you and you're coaching them.
Yeah. No.
Oh, no.
They're sitting in front of me at the bereavement or depression stage.
All right, okay,
B and D.
gotcha. Right, sorry.
So stage 3 and stage 4. they never come to see me at DNA.
3 to 6.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So there's 5 stages. They come to me at 3 and 4, and my aim is to get them within a few weeks from 3 and 4 into 5. 5 is completion, right?
Okay. That's the
5 is
acceptance.
yeah,
So acceptance is completion,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Exception is completion. My aim is to get them from 3 and 4, whichever stage they're at, into 5 as quick as possible, and not let 3 and 4 drag on for months and months and months, because their physical health's going to worsen, their mental health's going to worsen, their emotional health, social health. They don't go out; they stay inside. Their productivity, their value to their employer or their business, for instance, will suffer. So their financial health will suffer. Their spiritual health will suffer. A lot of them don't go to the mosque or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
So they suffer. My aim, or the aim of any mindset coach, is to get men from B and D into A as quickly as possible. That's it.
Okay, all right. Now we've got the framework and the mechanics. What we'll do in part 2 now, we will go into how you get them from B to D, bereavement, depression, to the acceptance stage, what mechanisms you use, and in part 2, we will put out how to get there basically, yeah? So stand by, we'll be back in part 2.